Welcome, everybody, to Impact Society, and I have a special guest. Not only is he a top realtor in the San Antonio city, but he's also a friend of mine. And so we're going to have him on the show today, and we're going to give you some insight about his story, but more importantly, some strategies as well. So stay tuned for Impact Society. Here we are live in San Antonio, and I've got one of the top real estate guys in the city with me here on this podcast at Impact Society. We're going to unpack his story a little bit, and then we're going to talk about some strategies for you guys. And so I'm excited to have our guest today, Devin Resendez. What's going on, my brother? How you doing?
Man? I'm good, man. Blessed. Glad to be here.
Yes, sir.
Happy to see what you on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Impact Society, your question to me when you first sat down was, how did this get started? It's 20 years in the making. And when God changed my life in late November of 2004, I kind of had a revelation. I wrote everything down. Crazy thing is, that was 2004. I didn't get in real estate till 2008, and it was in the book.
Okay.
Right? And spent over 15 years in real estate.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, guys, he had so I started a real estate brokerage. Devin was the hard hitter at our at our company, right? And but yeah, all that was in the book.
Okay.
And one of the things that was in the book was financial services, and I had lost the book actually. So, or at least I thought I did. And then when I moved this last time out to the ranch, I found the book.
Okay.
And I was like, dang, and everything was in there, like the merch, all the stuff that I was going to be a part of, the speaking engagements, everything was in that book. And then I had an opportunity to get on a podcast in Dallas. And after I get done filming it, I realized who I'm with. It's a guy named Dream Motivates out of Eric Thomas's camp. But he's also, he's doing his thing.
Yeah.
Right. And get plugged in with him. And he calls me back the next day, says, bro, God showed me something I need to show you. So I go back over there, and he has it all laid out. And I'm like, bro, this is everything I'm seeing. He's like, it's his gift to see. And so, man, we're bringing it all together.
I love that.
And,
Timing's everything.
Timing. That's exactly what he said.
Because, I mean, I'm going back to, you said 2005 or 2025, so 20 years of this book is misplaced. Because the next question I was going to have is what sparked it now, right? If you had it in 05, why didn't the vision come to life? But clearly it's timing, right? Connecting with the right people and things just align the way it's supposed to when they're supposed to.
And the funny thing is, I saw a girl the night before, had 1111 on her throat, and I was like, what is that? And she said, oh, this is God's alignment, right? Next day when I showed back up with Dream, he has 1111 on his shirt. I'm like, hold on, what is that? And he's like, this is my brand. I was like, what does it mean? He says, God's alignment. I said, oh, bro, it's crazy.
Signs.
Yeah, and so that's it, man. It's a season, right? 20 years in the making, and glad to have you on.
Oh, man, anytime I be a part of something you building, I want to be a part of it, man, wherever I can.
My brother.
And so this is good. I like this.
So give the audience a little bit of background. So you're a San Antonio native.
This is it. Born and raised, single mom. Grew up in San Antonio, west side of San Antonio, 19th and Hidalgo. It's real west side. The city's expanded since then. Grew up. My mom had me at 15. So it was just kind of her and I, brother, sister, mom, son. Did our thing, grew up, joined the service, came back.
When you say join the service,
I was in the Navy.
Navy branch, right?
Yeah, 09. I joined the Navy. Came back home after that. And kind of been here since. I met my wife in 2010. And then we got married in 2012. Found real estate in 2016. And then since then, it's kind of just been up, man. Really, it's really what it's been. It was a lot of things in between. A lot of challenges, things I didn't get right. But I think, like you said, timing. I found the business at the right time, and then it just worked for me.
And one thing I got to say about Devin is if you want to find a guy who's really actually going to take care of you, like OCD about the business in a sense, right? Going to make sure that he knows everything for you. That's one thing I love about you, man.
I appreciate it. And it shifted, right? It didn't start that way. And I think nothing ever does. I think when you find your thing, it's just you. Right. So when you talked about impact, and when I saw the podcast and I was like, and you invited me on, my whole thought was impact. And what does that look like? Because in the beginning, I think as you build your story, whatever that is, you're creating a small impact, and then everyone's making these small sacrifices, right? So I was thinking about like the gentle impact, like it's that small little drop that just creates a small ripple, and you really don't know it's feeling you, but if you do it enough times, it starts to touch you. So it's like the woman's impact on a man, right? Sometimes it's some little small little nuggets, but she's causing an impact on you. And so when I got in and we were doing our thing as building up our business, in the beginning it was just me, and so there was no one to really depend on me, and it was just me and my family. I think everyone's business starts there, and then it kind of just elevates and grows. And when it became other people, that's when I started taking it more seriously, because these people were depending on me to get it right. And so you got to be less, you can't be as extreme in the risks you take, because if it fails, you let those people down who've aligned with you. So I think that's when I became more mindful of the people around me, and that I couldn't fail for them. And so then it became more serious. When it was me, I was throwing money out everywhere. Like, hey, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna see if it works. If it doesn't, no big deal. And then somewhere in there, I started to think, did I lose my grit because I wasn't as willing to take risks? And I was reading this book recently, and it was talking about that. And I was like, man, I did become less risk tolerant as I got more people depending on me, because I couldn't afford to mess up. And it was like, maybe I got to get back to that risk. Just take more chances, right? And then play less safe. But I do take my business very serious. So I'm very in tune and intentional about the decisions I make regarding how we move. And it has to make sense for everybody who's in line with us. They all got to be able to win.
How big is your team now?
51 people. Ooh. It's grown, man, and it's been getting bigger. And it's still organic. We don't recruit, so it's just other people on the team wanting to share the goodness about being
all
part
referrals.
Of the group. It is. It's just other agents on the team, other people finding out through Google and learning about the group and wanting to come out and learn what it's about. And we give everyone a shot. We believe you never know who's going to be successful, so we got to give everyone a chance to see if our platform is right for them. And if it is, and they find their stride and whatever success looks like for them, we just want to empower that.
I love it. So you've had a lot of changes in real estate. Right?
Yeah, especially recently. It feels like it's just been, you've seen a lot of different markets.
Yeah, and then talk about that. Talk about how that's like the impact between the different, when you went from just small, I know you kind of touched on it, right? Like, you could just be you, but now that you have all these people on your team, but even after you've added people on your team, you've had different complications with people's personalities being on the team. You've had to deal with different situations. Unpack that.
Okay.
Because for every business owner out there, or somebody that's trying to get in business, somebody trying to figure out, how do I create impact with my team? How do I?
I think first is to be a giver within your business, right? Okay. So when I say I give everyone a shot, I truly do, and we ride it out. I'm not going to give up on you because you have this mold around you that we got to break, right? You're adapting to what we're bringing to the table. We're trying to adapt to what you're bringing to the table. And we're trying to find our happy medium that we're going to make this thing win together.
Love that.
And so I try hard to refrain from firing anybody, right? I don't think we've gone this entire time. I probably let go one agent ever. And it was because they were disrespectful to another person within the group. It's like, hey, we don't tolerate that inside. We can kind of go, or just not be disrespectful. But outside that, they kind of let go on their own, man. When the business no longer makes sense for them, we kind of part ways. But what it's been like through the struggles of the market, I think as we've adapted and changed and we've grown, the mission's been the same, right? When you come to our model, we let you know it's not going to be sexy. Like, the people we want to help are those who truly need help or not. This isn't New York listings and on all those $1 million listings. We are helping true families who need help. And what I've learned in the years is no matter where the market goes, those people still need housing.
Right.
And it's just meeting them where they are. And so whatever that looks like for the consumer, and I believe that in any business, if you make that your approach first, is I'm going to meet the consumer where they are, and you remove the hurdles, as many of them as possible, and you make it fit their life. The process becomes easy, and they can see themselves in it. And once they can, it aligns, and it feels like we brought up in the beginning, alignment. And so I believe people really look at signs when they make decisions, especially big decisions. And so when you start to create too many hurdles, you make the goalposting further away, and that consumer adjusts their expectations, and then they lose sight of wanting to make that transaction, whatever it is, viable. So they're like, you know what, this isn't for me. They want to go home and think about it. This is where you lose them. But when you meet a consumer where they are, and that's what we really pride ourselves on, and that's what I think has allowed us to remain successful, even though the market's gone back and forth, right? Super busy. And like I tell people all the time, COVID was, while it was a crazy market and people were winning, we were actually losing. The customers that we chose to opt to help weren't able to compete. They didn't have the ability to cover above appraisal and eat that up, right? They just had enough to get in the game. And so the buyer fatigue was real. They were setting in. So even in that market, we were able to help a lot of families, but there was a lot that we weren't able to help, right? They came to us, they were ready, and they had the money from COVID that they were getting, and so they had this influx of capital that they otherwise wouldn't have had,
Right.
and this was their chance, or so they thought. And then rates were low enough that housing was affordable.
It's just too much competition.
It was, and then when the market shifts, you go
Oh,
back
Black
to it, you can't do
Rock.
it. It is. And so when
Black Rock and
the
a
hedge
couple
funds
of
were jumping
other-
in. Yeah, a lot of the hedge funds were coming in. They felt like it was the time. And so our customers were finding themselves on the sidelines. And that was the hard part, right? And so when I look at our business and the things that we want to make as our milestones and the metrics that we measure to is the people we don't help, right? I mean, helping a lot of people is great, right? You sell 600 families, that's phenomenal. But the ones that we didn't help, why couldn't we help them?
Say that again. I like that. So everybody's always counting the success.
That's
that
it. That's what they look at. Everyone's looking at what we've achieved, and they're not, the families I'm counting are the ones we didn't help. And why couldn't we help them? What could we have gone back and done differently?
like
Right?
that.
Why didn't it fit their lifestyle at the time? Was it down payment? Was it credit score? And then we try to remove those hurdles on our end, right? I believe that's our job to advocate. And that's what led me into real estate. And that's why I think my gifts align really well with this business. And then the rest was kind of just luck, man. After that, it just fell in place. And that's where I think the real snowball comes in, right? When we talk about building wealth, did I think I could make this kind of money from selling houses at the time? No, right? I didn't know anybody who was, right? And in the time when I was looking around, if you were making mid six figures, you were doing it. And in my brain, that's when I got in here and did it. I remember going to Alex Marty, the guy I started with, and telling him, hey, man, if I could just make 85,000, I would do this.
Yeah.
And that was just a lateral move for me. I was making 85 my last job. If I couldn't do
The
this.
lid just kept rising and rising.
And he was like, you can make that in the next 3 months. And I was like, let me know what I got to do, right? And we come from a different type of cloth, the way that I was raised in the area I grew up in. Loyalty was important. And where I grew up, and those who did good by you, you do great by them.
Right.
And so when he was like, you can do it in 3 months, like, man, tell me what I got to do, I'll do it for you. Like, I'll jump across this mountain if you tell me to.
Yeah.
And it was just, that's the guy I was behind at the moment. So I was just, whatever he told me to do, I was going to do it. And it did. It worked out really well. I mean, I did, I don't know, a couple $100,000 my first year. And I told my wife, like, this could really work. But what you don't realize, and when we go back to the impact, you can have a negative impact on things. And before that, before I had this real estate business, I was all about the family, doing the right things. Weekends, you got me. We family daying it out. And then you get into this business, and it's a whole new wave, and it takes a toll on you, right? I don't want to say you get addicted to working, but in some cases, you can find yourself addicted to working. And I was in it.
Yeah.
I
I find myself in workaholic mode a lot, and then I have to sit back and think about. The funny thing is, you point that out. I actually be thinking about you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have this schedule that you're gonna make sure you ride around. Like you talking about
Yeah.
how you ride around in the neighborhood with
Yeah.
your wife and kids on the golf cart.
Yeah.
And like, I think about how you, Matt, and there's a couple other people that are very intentional with their family, and I'm trying to build Impact Society, building my insurance brokerage and all this stuff, and like, I sometimes feel like Atlas. I got the world on my shoulders.
You do.
And I know I need, but the best world is mine.
And it's funny you say that, right? So in the beginning, while I always had that at the top, like we as businessmen and people who are trying to thrive to make something happen, we have family at our forefront as we're making those sacrifices. Everyone's sacrificing, right? As the buildup was coming, we only had one child at the time, thank God. But we were all making sacrifices. My wife was sacrificing because she was the one holding it down at the house. I was making sacrifices of my time. We were all doing it. We just weren't communicating effectively that we were doing it. And I told her, like, just give me time. I'll figure this out. And that's really all it is. In the beginning, it's just a time thing. Like, it's not going to be like this forever. And for the first 3-4 years, it was all business all the time. And then it finally began to, as we leveraged out, we found the right people. It started to make sense. Then I could begin to pull myself away and give myself that time with the people who I wanted to share it with. But it didn't happen overnight. So I tell people all the time, as you're building, you're going to be in the grind all the time. And that's okay. And I find that those who pull themselves away from the sacrifice find that they're losing just that little bit, bit. And if you're racing against me in those times that you got to make that your priority, you're going to lose to me because I'm not making that my priority, because I understand where my focus is. And I'm willing to sacrifice this in the short term in the event that this is going to work out long term. So my family took the big run of it, probably the biggest, right? My wife had to make the biggest sacrifice. She got less of me in the moment. Even when I was present, I wasn't fully present, right? And that's when I think having the right partner is so important. And she could have been the type to just go blow the money, right? Because at the time we were still sharing bank accounts. All the money was in one. She could have been out shopping, blowing the money. And she wasn't, right? She was like, hey, this is for setting us up for whatever's next. And I think in the first couple of years, we were always really scared that this wasn't going to last forever. And whatever was next wasn't going to be what it was. I wasn't going to go back to Cisco picking up boxes. That just wasn't going to be my life. And so we knew that, and we were really hoarding money. And that was probably the biggest blessing. Like, looking back today, it was like, man, it gave us options, and it gave us the ability to make the right decisions and then create the impact that we want to have on those around us. And because we were able to do it, we were able to do some things that aren't conventional. We invest in people first,
Right.
right? So those
A
around
lot
us.
of tools and systems that you guys provide that others
We
don't.
do, and then that's part of our investing in our people, right? And it'll go beyond that. I think when we invest in someone, it's the time we put into them. I have Gary Keller has this model called the one thing, and what I went back and looked at is, and what he argues is, what's the one thing that by doing that dramatically moves the needle on everything else, and that was me pouring into my people. And once I realized that was my thing, it's become my rule, right? My door stays open. You can come in, you can get as much time as you need with me. And whatever I'm doing can wait. Like if I'm working, it's like, I'll put this to the side and let's get this conversation going, because I believe that if I give you what you need and I pour into you, you're gonna have that be felt somewhere else.
Amen.
And so that's kind of what it's been.
Love that. I got a couple good questions for
Yeah.
you. Let's go with your top 3 books right now that you've been reading in the last season or so. That
Give and Take.
okay, give and take by.
Give and Take is by Dr. Grant, Adam Grant, I believe his first name. And that book specifically I chose is it put new perspective on how I assumed I was giving. Because at times while you're a giver, you wonder, like, are you selflessly giving where it causes harm to yourself? Are you giving others? And that's how he kind of breaks it down, is that there's a give, there's a take, and there's a matcher. And somebody aligns with one of those 3 things, and it's a great way of understanding where you align with in business.
Okay.
And so that one I would put as one of the top ones I've read. A surprising one that was recommended to me was The Defining Decade, and I've been
Defining
gifting it.
Decade.
Yeah, and I've been gifting it to other kids in that defining decade. And that goes to your 20-somethings. They argue that from your last 10 years of formal education is when you identify the person you're going to become, is what the book essentially aligns with. And when I started to look at it, I was like, man, had I had this information sooner, it would have done so much for me. And luckily, I was able to, as I read the book, I still navigate those waters pretty good. But some of the things that hold people back in that book, I encountered. I had children young. Having children young is one of the ways that you can harm yourself, because then you're forced to look at security as your option. And what I mean by security is that stable job, stable income. So you then begin to lose sight of your dreams. And I think a lot of people find themselves victim of that because they had a family they had to provide for. So when they found this job that's providing enough, they'd say they stopped dreaming. And so I looked at that dream state and said, hey, when does a person stop dreaming about what they want? And I think whenever life gets put on hold.
Yeah,
Like something that stopped you. And so that book really puts in perspective. So if someone's young and has yet to have children and they're graduating from high school and they plan on pursuing college, or they don't, and this is where this is going to stop and they're going to hit their working years, that book is something I'm gifting to all of them. So my sister's about to graduate from college. My youngest sister-in-law, she just graduated a couple of years ago, and she's still within that time. And so I want them to really tune into what the book says and make the right decisions early. So that's another powerful book. And then the last one, probably The Road Less Stupid, is probably a book I recommend to people.
The World Less Stupid.
The Road Less Stupid.
Road Less Stupid.
The Road Less Stupid. And that one is just about not overcomplicating this thing we're in, right? The world is very easy. We overcomplicate something that's easy because we think it has to be harder than what it is. And it's funny because with ChatGPT becoming the latest crave and everyone using that for everything, me and a couple of friends have been using it, and we had found a lot, and he broke it down like, ChatGPT told me how to buy the lot and go through buying it and then redeveloping it. And I'm like, man, ChatGPT makes it sound so easy. Maybe we've been overcomplicating something that the process is so easy.
Man, I've seen some recent Instagram reels and stuff like that where these guys, and I'm just like, I'm overcomplicating this.
Yes.
This is one Asian dude. He's just like, and I'm like, and then I got scroll through. It's like million of views. I'm like, what the heck?
Yes,
I'm overcomplicating.
and that's what the book does. It just simplifies the world. It's something that says, hey, this is easy, and we as people think it has to be harder than it is to go and get it. Right. I remember when I was first looking at this business, like, man, what could it be possible to make $1 million? And I was overcomplicating the steps to get there, and it was far easier than what I thought it was. And once you tap into what that looks like, the rest becomes easy, and it really is easy. And we as people think that there's just no way that something could be that simple. And we put up mental roadblocks on ourselves and said that's just impossible. And I go back, man, I talk to a lot of older people these days, and I hear out their stories and where they ended up and how they wish they would have pivoted here and done that. And like my question, like, why didn't you? Like, what was holding you back at the time, right? My mom and I have that conversation often, and I let her know, like, you should not stop dreaming about what it is you want. It may look different, right? If you were 16 and I'm gonna be a lawyer, I'm gonna be a doctor, and then life happens, cool. What is the new passion? What is driving you today? And I think your needs change. Even if you want to be a doctor at 16, you go to law school, you may hate it. I know a lot of lawyers today who sell real estate. It's like, well, I guess law didn't work, right? or that was no longer your passion, right? And that's okay too. We are evolving and determining what it is we want to become, and I think that moves. And as we move and the passion becomes something new, I tell people all the time, I don't care what you do. If you do it at the best level possible, you'll make a lot of money. I can care if you shine shoes.
Yeah.
If you do it the best and you leverage it out the right way, that can become $1 million empire. If you wash cars, if you cut grass, if that's your passion and you truly can find yourself consumed in spending those hours in that business and figuring out how to make it the best service possible for those that you service, that thing can scale as big as you want it to.
It goes back to your question earlier, like, spent over 15 years in real estate. And I thought, when I had the brokerage, I thought, man, I made it.
Yep.
And then
life happens.
Life happens. Let's put it that way. And man, I had almost an identity crisis because my whole identity, because God changed my life in November 2004. I didn't think I could get good jobs. Got bad background. I'm over here at McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, all this. I'm like, this is not me. And I would leave. Eventually, I get to car sales. Meet a guy who ends up getting me. Well, I was selling him a truck. He gets me in a real estate, a guy named Don Davis. And then I spent 15 years in it, and I loved it. And my whole identity at that point was like wrapped up in me being a real estate guy, right? And then when all that stuff happened, and then my business partner with the investment company, and he died, and I lost all that money, and I just like, bro, I was a workaholic for what, right? And then when my daughter passed away, like life just kept
happening.
Boom, boom.
That's tough.
Boom.
That would do a lot to a weaker man.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy? Again, the reason I asked you about the book is our company had a book of the month.
Okay.
Called "Courage to Be Disliked." It's by a Japanese guy.
Okay.
I don't remember his name.
That's fine.
It's a Japanese name, but it's called "Courage to Be Disliked." And it's just a conversation between an older gentleman and a younger gentleman. And the younger gentleman thinks he's already figured life out. And he thinks he understands certain things, but when the older man makes certain comments, he's like, I don't believe that. And they go through this whole dialogue, and man, at the end of the book, or like, what I got the most out of it is like, life's gonna happen, right? But who are you will tell you how you're gonna interpret life.
Yes.
And just like what you said, like the average person or a weaker man, it'd have been over.
Oh, for sure.
But for me, when I was addressing that, I was like, but that's not who I am. I'm a person who wants to create impact. I'm a person who wants to influence people that you could do more. Because I remember being the poor kid in Mississippi. I remember being the guy who was living under bridges because I was homeless. I remember the times when all the negative things in my life, and I just kept going. I can't stop here.
And that's what I like, because it makes the impact bigger. Because now the struggles say, hey, look, in spite of these things, I'm still doing what I need to do and still creating the bigger impact. So that's what I like. It's funny you brought up my life was very similar. So in 2010, I caught a case, right? And you don't realize how the system can really hold you down when you're just not set up the right way. And while that was playing itself out, it took a long time. Like, I think we had a year before they dismissed it. So that year, while that charge was just pending on my record, no resolution, I couldn't get a job because it was a violent crime. And I'm not as humble as you were. So I wasn't about to go work at McDonald's, Chick-fil-A. And my mom, man, she went and got a job at the time just to pay my car note so I didn't lose my car. And I was
Shout out to mom.
Yeah, holding it down always does, right? And so I remember that, and I was thinking, like, fuck, she wouldn't have did that for me. But I still wasn't willing to go get a job. And then I met my wife in that same time, and we were just dating through 2011. And she wanted more than just the dating. She wanted to be committed in a relationship. I told her, I can't give you nothing. Like, you shouldn't want to be with me. But then she ended up getting pregnant in February 2012. And it was like, okay, I got to figure this out. So then I was willing to humble myself and go get a simple job in the short term. Once that case resolved itself, I was able to do more things. But you're right. When you're in that moment, you do things that you probably wouldn't have otherwise chose to do. And you start to make those sacrifices. And if I'd have found a job that would have paid me what I thought I was worth, I probably would have stayed there longer, right? In the short term, would I see myself there long term? There's always more I want to accomplish, and I think I would have gone back to doing some of those things. But you get caught up on your circumstance, and then the good part of you, the person took a chance on you when I had this on my record and said, hey, but if you're only gonna pay me $15 an hour, like, my time is worth more, and what I'm investing in your business is more. Even though you took a shot on me when nobody else wanted to, I just look at it, you got cheap labor. You took a chance on me, and you got me for cheaper than I was worth because I couldn't go anywhere else. But in those moments, you get tested. And I remember being in those moments and losing everything at the time that I had because I was in a borrowed lifestyle and thinking, like, yo, is this it? And then you start to contemplate those other thoughts of like, oh, am I gonna ever come back? But what you realize and what you have pointed out was the young guy to the old guy, like tell myself that today, like, yo, you got time. So to the young guys today, when I'm with them and they're like, they have this unrealistic time horizon of what success looks like and when they should be there. Mm-hmm. I let them know, man, you got the most beautiful thing of all, you got time. Like, while time is not promised at 24 years old or 23 years old, and you're trying to figure this out, you have time. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm 35. It took a decade in this business almost to be in February to be 10 years to get it to what you see today. Mm-hmm. But those early years didn't look like that. At 25, I was still struggling. We were still barely getting by. We bought our first house. It was a small house. It was like $220,000. It wasn't nothing massive. And we stayed there, and we stayed small enough, long enough.
Now it's custom.
Yeah, now I tell people all the time, you stay small enough, long enough, you'll be big enough soon enough.
Yeah, there
but
you go.
You can have it all. You just can't have it all at once for many people, right? It will get there, and so some people just think I'm going to do it all today, and you're not. And in that beginning, I sacrificed my health. I went from 190 pounds to 290 pounds in 8 months, mm-hmm. right? I was not healthy. I wasn't in the gym. This was my focus, and it was bad. And when we look at what someone's willing to sacrifice, it was like, I'm going all in on this today, because you think you can always come back to the rest of the stuff, right? Unless life happens and you can't. The thought is I can always come back and build those. If I broke a relationship, I can do it to my daughters today. I'm their hero, right? My daughter was so young at the time that I was making the sacrifices. She doesn't even remember dad working so hard, right? Today, she doesn't know it. And so to her, I can be her hero because I come in when I need to be. I'm the good dad. I don't get on her. My wife handles the bad stuff, right? So to them, I can be that for them. And all those in-between moments are all because we all made the small sacrifices early that seemed like they were big. Yeah. And for couples and people who give up on their partners too early and then they want to come back and rethink of that, I look at the good woman who said, look, I'm going to hold it down for you. A lot of what your wife has been for you in these moments, right? When I'm fucking up.
Solid.
That's when you got somebody who's like that at home holding you down, you can conquer the world because they remove that stress of everybody else, because I already got enough people out there hoping I'm going to fail. Right. And as long as you know I'm going to make it, we're going to be good.
You get at least one safe place in the world.
That's it. I'm like, when you dream big, there's going to be a lot of people who think it's not possible because they're always going to see you for who you were and not for who you are. And so as you're making those moves and people consistently see you as, oh, that's Pat from back in the day. That's Pat from back in the day. I can't tell many people still do that. And then we who want to hold on because of how we were built, it's like we still hold on to some of those folks and they still come around, and it makes that transition harder. But it's like they don't know what's up here and how long I've been plotting this. So when you said you had this for 20 years, the thought has been there. So when it looks like it happened overnight, it's been 20 years in the making. It was just waiting for all the pieces to align. Mm-hmm. And that's really what it was for me, man. All the pieces just aligned. The right people gave me a hand up and made the chance possible for me. And they saw something in me when others didn't. And they said, hey, this kid's special. And it just became more and more and more and more and more. And then, like I tell people, like, how'd you learn all this about money and things like that? I didn't learn. Somebody else took a chance on me and said, hey, let me tell you what you need to do with your money, not you got some. But I told them the reason why you feel like the conversation is happening for you is that you may not be there yet, so you're not ready for the conversation. Right. That's kind of how it went down.
No, that's for sure. There was even scriptures, man. There was certain scriptures, for instance, I would read. Like I hear people like, oh, when I read the Bible, I fall asleep. Yeah, I was like that. When I read any book, I fell asleep. And then eventually, you know, I learned I got to stand up and walk and talk when I'm reading, like, and regurgitate what I'm saying right then and there. So, like, because I got to put it in my words and stuff like that. But, you know, there was one scripture that stood out for me that for years I didn't understand what it said or meant. And it said, you can't pour new wine into old wineskin, lest the wineskin burst and you waste your wine. And I was like, what does that mean? Right?
What did you take from that?
Well, eventually what I learned was that when in the ancient days when they would pour wine into wineskin, you know, it hasn't been fermented yet, right? So as in the fermentation process, it's going to expand. Well, once you've used it once, you can't use it again. And so that's why it says you can't use old wineskin. So people want to think that, like, and you kind of talk about, like, we have these evolutionary periods in our life, right? Where we have to keep growing, but we can't bring the old version of ourselves into this new place. When I hear people say, for instance, like, "Oh, money changed you," no, I didn't. Money didn't change me. I changed so I can get money because I realized I can't go in that room acting like the old Pat, right? For instance, shout out to Mark Harris and Dayton Schrader. Dayton Schrader leveled me up when I first. I was doing pretty good in real estate, but when I made it to Dayton's team. Dayton was like, I need you to dress better. You need to dress like a professional. I was like, okay. And then he's like, matter of fact, I want you to go talk to one of my lenders named Mark Harris. So I go to Mark Harris. And when I go in there, he said, Pat, I think there's something special about you. But have you ever heard how you speak? And I'm like, no. He said, man, you sound like Boomhauer. I was like, I don't even know who Boomhauer is. You ain't never seen King of the Hill?
Yeah.
I was like, no, but I'll go watch it. He said, Pat, what I want you to start doing is I want you to start filming yourself and how you talk, because what you're trying to convey is not coming out how you think it's coming out. And I'm like, okay. So when I started listening to myself, I'm like, man, I really do sound I sound uneducated. And it's really, Mississippi, we have a lot of like words that are like mashed together.
I got a twang, kind of like a Texas thing.
Yeah. And so eventually I had to learn how to like articulate better, be able to speak a little bit more clear, to get my point across, slowing my thoughts down, stuff like that. But, again, that old version of Pat had to die.
Yep.
To get to the new place where I want to go. So money didn't change me. I changed so I can get more money.
And the people who say that are still stuck where they were in the moment. So they haven't yet grown. And because of that, they expect you to be where they are.
Right.
And so therefore you had to have changes, but you haven't grown. And that makes me more disappointed in the fact that you have yet to grow. But back to dating, it's funny you bring them up, man. I still tell people today when they ask about real estate, I tell people that's my favorite realtor in the business. Man, every time I talk to that dude, he's always professional. He knows this business so well. Even though our business has been fortunate to grow big, I still look at him as the man who's done it for longevity. And even today, I was having a conversation with another realtor, Martin. Shout out to Martin. We were on the call, and I was telling him, as I look, because we keep our business low key, and you know that, right? But when I look around and I see other realtors, the things I'm complimenting today about a realtor is how long you've been able to sustain your success. Because I understand that we've seen so many different markets, and if you've been able to just keep your life afloat, I'm inspired even from watching from afar. And when I get a chance to sit with you and hear your story, I want to know what are you doing to keep yourself going, right? And success looks different for everybody, so I've stopped putting numbers on it. But what I have gone is I've understood that when I first got in the business, there were some top talented agents at the time who no longer sell real estate today.
Right.
They found themselves out of the business, but they had massive years. But what they couldn't do is they couldn't sustain it. Something along the way messed up. They failed to become their own. Matthew McConaughey had a speech, and in the speech he had said that he's chasing him in the next 10 years. So his hero for him is in himself the next 10 years, and he knows he'll never catch it. And when I look at the business, I'm chasing myself in the future, so I'm never going to let nobody else catch me. And while I'm aware of what everyone else is doing, it doesn't impact the decisions I make within my own business because whatever you're doing may work for you, may not work for me, right? Or it's not scalable. It's a one-person thing. What you do amazing for yourself works well for you. It ain't going to work well when you got to put it on 50 people. So we can't take those ideas and implement them in because they're not scalable, right? So those who have great social media followings and they're building their business through social, so that's incredible. I can't scale that for 50 people today without creating a full-on media company. Is that the direction I want to go? Probably not. At least not today, right? So you start to find these things that just don't work for you. And I think the reason why I find some people wave their success is they're too quick to try to jump to something else. I want to do that, I want to do that. It's like, find what's authentic to you and then make that thing work. So I like that. And it's funny about the Boomhauer thing. I've always talked really fast. And when I got in this business, I would not want to talk on the phone. So I went straight to setting appointments to get face-to-face because I didn't want to keep saying, huh, can you repeat that? Because I talk so fast and at times I wouldn't enunciate my words. And so that handicap, if you will, allowed me to do so well because I was getting face-to-face, belly-to-belly with the consumer because I didn't want to have that phone conversation.
Right.
I was like, I knew I was harder to understand on the phone. And so it's funny that they made you change it or talked about improving it. To me, it was like that got me in front of so many people and my business completely shifted.
See, I would say that. I would say that it definitely, it's what set me apart.
Yeah.
Like people would look at me and be like, hold on, your last name is Wilbanks. You look Asian, but you sound like you're from the hood. And it worked. It was my brand. It was like, I'm a panda. I'm black,
And
white,
that's what I
and
love.
Asian.
And for me, what it really did is it humanized me to the customers I was trying to help.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't come off as what they perceived a real estate agent to be, and it made them comfortable when choosing to work with me. And I think that was also what played a factor in helping me be successful. And I think a lot of people are trying to, I don't want to use the word change, but growing too fast and missing the mark on who their customer is, right? And what I mean by that, whatever space you're in, if you're selling pins and you come in a G-Wagon, someone's going to perceive your success as bad based on their past circumstances, and they may turn down your sale because you didn't come as approachable. You come to me in the Honda, I want to give you that. And I remember when I first got in the business, a guy took a chance on me early, and he was like, I want to be your first big sale. He had no idea what my business looked like, but I was still driving my truck, right? But then I went and got the Panamera was my second car I bought for myself when I got in the business. And immediately those people didn't want to take a chance on me. They saw this young guy and they thought, oh, you're making enough money. Like, you don't need my business. It becomes a perception. And so I think you got to find yourself in that kind of in-between and stay where the person you're working with can still humanize you and say, okay, we relate, and you come from where I come from, or you're where I'm at, and you don't seem so attainable where it's like, right? And so that's why I think I've done it. And when I tell people my story about where I came from, they're like, no way you came from there. You don't sound like you came from there. It's like, sound like it didn't mean I didn't go there.
Right.
Right. We've been blessed, and my mom put me in different situations. I got to go to a different high school, and going there, when I go back to the area I grew up in, I still see a lot of my old friends I grew up with still living in the same area that they were at. And it's like, man, how did you stay here? Like, the only thing I wanted most out of life was to get out of that shack. We had a two bedroom, one bath shack. I think it was probably 680 square feet before they tore it down and rebuilt it, which still was a 2-bedroom, 1 bath that my grandmother had, my great grandmother, because my mom lost her parents when she was young. And so when we grew up there, I hated that house. I was so embarrassed by what that home looked like. I wanted nothing more than to get my mother and I out of that situation, however possible. And I would tell my friends, like, look, we're going to make it. And at the time, sports seemed like your only way when you're young. Like, yo, we're going to get here through sports. And then when that doesn't work out, you're like, okay, what's next? And the goal was always the same. And when I looked at sports and I thought, okay, going to the league was my way out, what it was I perceived that as the way of making money outside of what I saw in my neighborhood. And it was like, this is the safe way to do it. And a lot of the old heads would make sure that we got to they would love watching us young guys go and do that because they wanted us out of the hood. But then to see them all just circle back and repeat it, it's kind of like, if you keep a fish in the fishbowl, it's not going to grow that big. And so until they can get out to expand their horizon, see what life can be like, they have no idea what's possible outside of that scope of where they're at. And so I'm glad that my mom had the foresight to say, hey, I'm going to get you and show you new things. And that way you can understand that life can get better. Mm-hmm. And so because I saw it, it made it possible, especially when you can relate to those people. Right. And it's like, okay, if they did, I can do it. And I used that for a long time. And it's funny because today I tell people not to use that. Like, don't look at my story and say, oh, because he did it, I can do it. Because what you're going to learn is my gifts are my gifts and your gifts are your gifts. Mm-hmm. And your gifts may not align as well as mine do in this space. Not to say that there's not an industry that you can go to and your gifts will just rocket you out. And that's what I tell my son as he's trying to find is like, let's find where your gifts are naturally. Mm-hmm. And then we'll put you behind that, because wherever you align with the best that you just naturally get into and your body gets to it, that's where you're going to thrive once you can put some more energy behind it, because everybody has natural talents. And it's about finding your talents, right? And that's what we look at, and how do you let those things grow and use what God gave you to be successful.
The my biggest heartache, man, is I'm born and raised in Mississippi, and when I go back, whereas I'm 40 years old, and you're a 40-year-old child.
Yes.
And I mean that. Yes. I don't mean that in a bad way. I just, well, it is bad way.
It is bad.
But it's like, bro, you're still dressed and acting like you're 15, and we're still listening to Nelly or something. Like, like what the heck? Like, and it breaks my heart. And I'm like, the house is falling apart, and it's hard for me because when I go back, all you want to say is, hey, give me something. Help me out. Yes. And I'm thinking, bro, you've had your own self to help yourself out. But there's 3 things that I had a mentor tell me, 3 things that change your life: events that you attend, the books that you read, and the people that you surround yourself with, right? For instance, if you don't ever get out of your area, you got to get out of your area. I remember I moved to San Antonio, and there was 2 people, actually, that never knew that San Antonio had a Six Flags. And I'm just thinking,
you got your bubble.
This is your city. They're like, yeah, but I've never left the east side. And I'm thinking, dang.
Yep.
That's crazy to me. Because I'm mercurial, man. You
want to see what all has to offer.
I'm going everywhere. I remember when I moved to San Antonio, for instance, and back then it's 2001. You don't have like GPS and all that stuff. Just go get lost.
Yes.
And I would just drive everywhere, and then, I've seen that road before. Take that up, let me back over here. And that's how I learned San Antonio, eventually becoming a realtor.
Yes.
Really helped me
yes.
learn. But, man, when I see people, they just don't get out enough. And I think that's why, like, there was a book by Wallace Wattles called The Science of Success. I don't know if you ever
read that one yet.
You should read that book.
The Science of Success.
Man. He has a book with all 3 of, there's 3 books. I forget the other 2 names, but my favorite one out of the 3 is The Science of Success. One of the things he says in there, though, is you're doing yourself a disservice for your service to God and His creation for you and your purpose for you when you don't try to make the best of yourself. Now, you cannot make the best of yourself unless you're willing to go get the money so that you could have the leverage to make the best of yourself. And when I see parents that are like, no, man, I don't want to chase money. I don't, Because sometimes it's like what you said in the beginning. Like sometimes you're gonna have to sacrifice. So for the first 3 years, 5 years, you're gonna have to sacrifice. You're not gonna be with your kids as much. You're not gonna be. And there's certain people, man. They would start gaining success with the real estate team or with my my insurance team, but then they would find themselves away from their family too much, and they're like, nope, can't make that sacrifice. And I'm like, no, that's the whole point. Make that sacrifice today so that you could provide opportunities and get your child to go experience things outside of where you're at. But if you stop right now, you're going to stifle their growth as well because you don't realize what you just taught them. What you just taught them was when life doesn't give you as much freedom as you want right now, just give up.
Yep.
And it's like, bro, that's not it. That you may not think that's what you taught your child, but that's what you taught your child. And what you need to teach your child is sometimes you're going to have to sacrifice for a little to get that long-term gain. That is what you want to teach your child.
That is the truth. And so it's funny you touch on that, right? Because when I look at people, I had this incredible guy on our team, and he could have been more talented than he was, but I don't know if it's a past trauma or not, but he would rather not make more money to be home with his children. And that is great. You're going to go down as the best dad ever. But the things you fail to be able to show your children are the things that what money could have allowed them to have. And I think what money gives is experiences. And so now that's why we do a team trip annually. For me, it's to give the agents on my team the thought of what is possible. If you go work hard, you can do this too, and you can give that to your own children. And I'll never forget it, man. The first trip I did with my wife and my daughter and how excited she was about that, I want to just give her more. And then you go on Instagram and stuff and you see it, right? And I never wanted her to be impressed by what other people could give her. So then it just became, I'm going to show her everything. I want my daughter to see the entire world. I want her to see the best things possible. I want her to eat the best restaurants, stay at the best hotels. So that way she knew what is possible. And then she'll never be impressed by it. So someone's like, oh, you want to go here? I've been there. I've done that, right? And it wouldn't faze her. And so I think that that's what having means gives you the possibility to do, and other people negate that because of these past traumas. Everyone operates from two positions, right? When we talk about impact on and impact us, right? So this has impacted us this way, or this has impacted on me, this put impact on me. And I think I didn't have my dad around. So when I had children, I did want to be a part of my kid's life because my father wasn't there. To the scope of that, I didn't know. I thought I'm going to be an amazing dad, I'm going to be everywhere. But then you realize like that is impossible if I also want to achieve this. Right. And that's why I say in the beginning, you can have it all, but oftentimes not all at once. So what I mean by that is while you're focused on the one thing, you got to do that one thing really hard. And these other things are going to miss the love at times, right? The wife may not get it as often. The kids may miss you a little bit more. Your family might not see you as often because you can't make events. Those are short-term sacrifices because in the long term, you're going to be able to be that and more for everybody else because you'll figure it out. At least I hope you figure it out, right? Otherwise, you are going to find yourself jumping because these things are more important to you in this box. And I had heard this example one day. And what he said was life is like you're juggling balls, but a few of the balls you're juggling are glass. If you drop those, they'll break. And so it's like be mindful of the things that you decide to put off. And what I took from that internally was like, hey, the balls that are going to break are the relationships that are too fragile that if they're placed down for too long and they bust, they could be away forever. And do you want those to be gone? And so sometimes you got to reel it back in. I'm not saying all work and never taking care of families there. If I'm aware that I've really been neglecting my family, I'll take a Sunday and let's go do something in the beginning and let's give them that time. Let's re-energize and it's back to grinding. But it can't be every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You got me here all the time because I'm missing opportunities. And if I'm missing them, someone else is grabbing them. That's always been my thought is like, I don't want to miss an opportunity that somebody else can go get. And so that was it. And then I heard Rick Ross say that in the video, like, hey, whatever, it's $1 today, $10 here. It's the same.
Yeah, he said, I'll never miss a dollar. If I could charge you $3 to like do your dry cleaning, and you only got $1.50, I'm gonna take the $1.50. Let's figure out how to make the other $1.50 later. But I'm not missing. And that's how I've been my whole life. And when it wasn't like that, it was weird. And to me, it was like, look, if I can make $1 extra, I'm gonna do it. And even today, like now, I'm more mindful of my time. But if it makes me $1 extra, I'm gonna go do it. And I think that we get away from that somehow. And that's why I don't understand the psyche behind people, but what I've begun to realize in a lot of the books I've been reading lately are on psychology, because people are battling with this fear internally of what they see themselves as and how they perceive themselves, but the world will see something better in you, and you don't yet see it in yourself, and you're still hindered by these past traumas. And so as I continue to read and I'm learning more about this type of people, it's helped me to understand and be a better leader to those people, because people self-sabotage when they get on, right? They start making 150. They begin to lose sight of some of that and they want to fall back to where it's comfortable and stop doing it.
or they feel like life can't be this good. So then spouses start to bicker at one another because of the success that they're having. And what it is trauma. They've associated mentally that success is bad because when they were young, their parents told them the person with money is the bad guy.
Yeah.
He's an asshole. But what I've learned is that there's assholes at all income levels, right? It's just what it is. But what I've found more so than not is those who are ultra wealthy are the most generous and
most
kind
benevolent.
because they've done it. And what I think makes the human right is when there's no influence over what you can do for me and how I treat you then.
Right.
Right? Is if you got it and you know that I can do something for you and you treat me right, well, I expect you to treat me right. But if I can do nothing for you and you still treat me amazing, that's how I know you have signs of good character. And that's what I want to follow. And so that's why when we go places and we're buying things, I go dressed down. How are you going to treat me when I walk in here when you don't know that I'm capable of buying something? And if you treat me well, you're the kind of person I want to work with because you're not placing these judgments on me early, premature. And so I think that we as people skirt that and we find that it's hard. And that's why we have made these preconceived notions about one thing or another, good or bad, because of how we were raised and what we were brought up in. And I think we begin to fall in these cycles. And that's why you talk about generational curses. The Bible talks about is because that's what I've seen my entire life. And I know nothing different. And so I fall right back into it. So I end up doing what my parents did or what their parents did. And we just kind of fall in the same. And that's why you go back to neighborhoods. You don't leave because your mama was here. Her mama was here. Now your brother lived here. Now you here. And your kids are going to be here.
Right, and even trauma. Did you know trauma is passed down?
100%.
Like in DNA. Like it.
Oh,
actually,
that I didn't know it could.
Yeah. So you have a traumatic experience. It can actually change your DNA. And so it's crazy because I have 8 kids.
Yes.
And all 8 are in different seasons of my life. And I can see like how, this particular trauma affected my first child or second child, and then because I'm in a different space and mindset and everything, my 5th child or my 6th, you know what I mean? Like,
And you can see it?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Huh.
And I had my wife was, she went to school for psychology. She wanted to be a psychologist and want to go out and help, like specifically women with like battered women and abandoned women and stuff. Yeah, so that's what my wife went to school for. And so she would bring her books home and I'd be reading some of that material. Like one time I read about this, it's like so unconscious really, but how this one family, they had a son only, but then they end up having like 3 or 4 years later had a daughter, and the son was his world, but then when they have a daughter, now they're giving all the love to the daughter, but the son starts dressing up like a little girl and stuff and trying to be like a girl. Because in his mind, the way he was interpreting the world was, I got to be a girl in order to get love from the family. And you don't realize sometimes you're like creating a trauma or creating a misperception. One of my favorite videos by Tony Robbins, for instance. I don't know if you ever seen Tony Robbins helps this guy with a stuttering problem.
No, I haven't seen that one yet.
Man. So this guy, he has a stuttering problem, and I'm talking about bad, like right, like real bad. And Tony Robbins is having a conversation with him, and he's asking him to go back. I need you to go back, because how long have you been stuttering? All my life. Okay, then I need you to go back to your furthest memory. Because if you believe that stuttering has been with you all your life, had to start at your earliest memory. And the guy's thinking and thinking, and he goes, now I just remember it was Saturday morning, I was eating cereal, I was watching Rocky and Bullwinkle. He's like, He said, what happened right before that memory? And he's sitting there thinking, and it hits him. And he goes, my dad was kind of abusive, and I remember that morning he was yelling at her and all this stuff and da da da. And he says, and when Bullwinkle's in trouble, what does he do? He goes, Rocky. He said, that's where your stuttering problem comes from. He said, as a little kid, you don't realize that you're trying to learn how to call for help. Works as a little kid, maybe, not as a grown man. And that dude broke his stuttering issue by going back and reconciling what happened in his past. I'm bringing that up because, like, you and both had traumas in our lives, and we're trying to make sure that our kids don't have these same traumas. And then sometimes it's habits that we're passing on to them. But the good thing is today where we're at, right, we can give them new insight, new habits. But for those who are listening and haven't came to that place, haven't came to that revelation. Because I look out, I remember I was passing by this apartment complex one time, and I wanted to bust down the door, but some of me didn't do it that day. I normally probably would, but anyways, this guy was beating the crap out of his kids, and they were screaming for life, right? I couldn't, and part of me was like, I don't know what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like, was it warranted? I don't know. I got to move myself. But I think about that, like, there's people who are growing up with trauma.
Yep.
And it's impeding their ability to have success.
100%.
Because they don't realize that something that, and kind of what you just said earlier too, like, you decided to believe this thing, and it may not be true. I've been hitting on this almost every episode, that you can't even spell the word believe without the word lie right in the middle of it. And I don't want to believe anymore. I want to know. I want to know the truth.
Okay.
Right? And so my journey over the last 20 years has been to uncover the truth for myself. It wasn't for everybody else. It was for myself. But eventually what I learned was, as I uncover the truth for myself, then I can help you. Right?
I like that.
And so, you know, this whole trauma and everything that we're going through, and the whole reason the Impact Society came about is so that we can help bring information to people. They can read your story. They can see, like, you know, Devin was where I was,
I hope that that's what they get out of that. I hope that they see that I was where they were, and that it.
I mean, your whole mindset, everything you're talking today.
It's so when we talk about success, and what I found is people are scared. Fear's first. I think that if anybody wants to go and find success, you got to remove fear. Right? It's okay to fail. I failed a lot of times. I'm still failing. Right? There's things I do and they're not good. I have a house right now I bought bad investment, and I sell real estate for a living. Like, I wouldn't have fucked up. Right? But it happens. Right? We all make mistakes. We keep swinging. Yeah. And so I think if I was to put out a blueprint on a strategy today, if someone was watching on how to become successful, step 1 is remove fear. Don't be scared. Step 2 is remove pessimists. And what I mean by that is, don't look at opportunity and try to figure out what's wrong with the opportunity. Sometimes it really is that good. Right? So take everything with an open eye. And I feel like the third thing is, if you already have nothing, what do you have to lose? And so people be like, I'm going to lose it, I'm going to lose it. You already got nothing. You have nothing. You have no assets, no house, no car. Everything you have today, you can get again. So to come into, if you remove those 3 things, the rest of it is easy and is boring, because it is that simple. So when people talk about, like, Devin, what if I was going to sell real estate today, what would I do? Come in the office, make phone calls, set appointments, get face-to-face. Once you're face-to-face, know your product. It's that boring, and it happens over and over again. The part that's not, it's not sexy. I'm not out here videoing houses. I'm not doing all that. I'm making phone calls. I'm building relationships. Then I'm going and meeting these people so I can break some bread or whatever that looks like. But I got to get face to face with you. Then I analyze your needs and figure out, am I able to help you in your situation get to the next goal? And I think that's in every business that is service related. We got to get face to face. We got to figure out, is there a way that I can help you?
Right.
And so if I can find a way to help you, I can get you to where you want to go. And so with that, it becomes being an expert in your space. And what I find is that too many industries have low barriers to entry. And because they're so low, the people aren't pouring in themselves beyond that. They think that this certificate makes you the expert, but it just gives you the opportunity to go and learn more. And so the more you learn, the more you're able to help. So why are we so successful? We've understood there's more ways to help than just one.
Right.
And because we have more knowledge on how to help, we're able to help more people than you may be able to help. And the same is true in every service industry that I've been in. And when I talk to certain people, even in the financial space, there are other financial advisors who have managed more money, so they know more tricks and more tools on how to get you out of the situation you're in. If you're brand new, you may not be able to come and talk to someone like myself and know how to invest my assets the right way that's going to protect me, hedge against taxes, and then help to see some growth within my portfolio over the years, because you're not there yet and you haven't had a client yet to give you a chance to go and do it. So I think you got to become an expert in what it is you want to do, and spend that time, right? You can cheat the code and you can get with an expert, get behind them and shadow them. That will accelerate the curve. But that'll be the extra that you got to do on your end. But first, I think it's fear. You can't have fear holding you back, because it'll break you. It'll make you think you're not capable before you realize that you are. And that's where I'll go. And I think if you're going to take away something from somebody, it's understanding that nobody is more special than you, right? My gifts may be different, but we are equals in the playing field of this, right? You've either had a cheat code because somebody's already pulled you up, or you have not yet found that person who can, if you align, will take your business to the next level.
Do you think that fear is actually, how do I put this? Like somebody had, the reason I'm saying this is like low efficacy, like low view of themselves causes them to fear. Right, because I think of Batman.
Okay.
Batman in one of the movies of Batman where Bane, where they're down, well, he's down in the hole.
Okay.
And he's like, it's because you don't have any fear, right? Like, I think that when we're young and we don't have any fear, we go out there and we're just like today, man. I'm 40 years old. I went and played basketball the other day. My body is so beat up from when I destroyed it at 20s. Like, I go play basketball, I'm good for 3 or 4 games, and then all of a sudden my body starts hurting. But that was because I lived with no fear back then. Today, my fear is, man, I cannot be out of work for 2 weeks because I got to recover from an injury like I was at 20. Like at 20 years old, if I got injured, man, I'd still be out there. I played money. I bet money on the court, $100. Anybody could beat me while I'm wearing an air boot. Doctor told me I was not supposed to be out there. And I had no fear back then, but today I think some fear, right? Like even the Bible says like the fear is the beginning of wisdom. Because if you don't fear God, for instance, and you don't fear any penalty, or you don't feel fear of the police, or you don't fear like consequences, or you don't fear, like I do believe
that's called recklessness.
I do believe that there's a healthy fear.
Absolutely.
Now, my questioning is the unhealthy fear. I personally, I mean, I don't know. I want to ask you about this. Do you think it comes from low efficacy, low, like, I don't think I could do that, and so they're fearful, or I don't believe it's for me, so they're fearful.
The people that I've met with in my, I'm not going to call it a study because it's not, but the people I've met with that I have spoken with about what success could do for their life, and when they tell me what it can't, that is the fear that I'm referencing in regards. And I don't know if it's a stronghold on them, but that in-between thing, whatever that is what I associate with their internal fear.
Gotcha.
Because it may not be that they're scared. I don't think they're using it as fear in terms of I'm scared. It's this reluctancy to give in because this could go wrong. And that's where I go to number 2 as a pessimist. Everyone wants to know what could go wrong. It's like, what could go right? Because that would outweigh whatever could go wrong. And this, right? What does it cost to investigate in life insurance? $200?
Sure, I mean, it depends on how old you are.
No, to get into.
Oh yeah, to hold a license.
Yeah,
yes.
I think it's like $600 to be a realtor. If I committed $600 today and it didn't work out, I'm out $600, right? I mean, what did you really lose? At the end of the day, now granted, wherever you are in life, $600 may be a lot, but at the end of the day, if it goes and it works, that $600 is going to look at it like it's nothing. Right. That $200 is nothing. But internally, to them, that fear of saying, I don't want to give you my $600 or my $200 to go and find out, will this make me more successful, is what holds millions of people back from whatever that thing could be, right? And then it's when you get in it, then you got those other ones who say, I'm not even gonna give it a try, so I didn't really get a fair shot, but it didn't work out for me. And then now you have this view of the industry and saying, well, that industry's bad because it didn't work for me. It's like, well, did you give it a fair shot? Because you're quick to go work for somebody else 8 to 5, but you won't work for yourself 8 to 5.
Right.
So therefore, you would rather not be successful because today the earnings is gonna be 0. But I would equate that as to going to the gym. If you go to the gym day 1, you're not going to lose a pound. Probably not. Or you're not going to lose all the weight in one day. So if your goal is to lose 100 pounds and you go day 1 of the gym and you don't see results and you didn't lose 100 pounds, you're going to go tomorrow. After 30 days, you didn't hit your results. You're going to say, man, that didn't work out. But then when you start to look in between, how many times in that month did you cheat? How many times did you leave early? Did you clock out early? But when you go work for somebody else 8 to 5, they let you leave for lunch. You'll give them that full time. You're not clocking out till 5 on the dot for this person, but you won't do it for yourself. And then they want to come back and bitch at me and say, hey, Devin, it didn't work. It's like, you didn't work.
Right.
It works.
Right.
Because I'm proven fact that this works if you do the shit. It's not working for you because you're not working it.
Right.
But the second you leave and go work for somebody else and you've now given up on your dreams and they're paying you $50,000 a year and it feels like enough because the bills are paid, how much did you not take advantage of over here? And that's what I go by fear. It could be security, right? Someone's looking for security for themselves and therefore they look at, what am I giving up to go over here, and I can't go do that because I'm not going to have that guaranteed this. But it's the what if. I'm also a believer that not everybody can be successful, right? In terms of millions and millions of dollars. Not everyone's going to be a millionaire. It's just not the way it's going to work.
I don't think everybody can be successful either because, again, there's just too many issues.
But what internally. I found is that not everybody wants to be a millionaire. A lot of people think they want to be a millionaire, but not everybody truly wants to be a millionaire. And what that happens is you go from, say you're earning $25,000 a year today, If I gave you $100,000 today, it'd feel like a lot. We'll take it smaller. If you're gonna make it 25 today and life feels okay, if I gave you 50, life feels incredible. If you're making 50 and I gave you 100,
upgrade your zip code,
everything gets better. So if you go from 50 to 100, life looks better. So on your journey up to the million, you may find a number somewhere in between that life is, in your vision, perfect. And it doesn't need to get any better. And so therefore, you're not chasing that anymore, right? And so that's what I believe in, is as we're chasing whatever it is we think we're chasing, you think you want it because you think that's what it's going to look like, and you believe that this will give you the terms of happiness as you perceive it. But it's argued, Jordan Peterson says that $65,000 a year is the peak number of happiness for somebody, and it may be, right? What I learned as I began to work, when I was young, I wanted to be a millionaire. When I got enough money and I started making some money, I realized that I didn't want to make $1 million per se. I just want to reach my potential, whatever that was. And whatever that number is going to be the number. If it's 200,000, if it's 10 million, if it's 100 million, the number doesn't matter as much as the impact that I'm having, right? What I want to do is create my ripple so big that it ripples to everybody else. It creates such a big wave that when it splashes, everybody can feel it, right? And what I now equate to is death. What I'm looking at is, when I die, how many people will end up at my funeral, right? Will it be big enough? Will my impact be felt so much that people have to come and say their goodness because, man, this guy did so much for me, and they're going to go to my wife and say, hey, Kim, Devin did this for me. And then will those stories be like that she's unaware of and say, man, your husband did this for me when I didn't know, or when I needed this. And it's funny, I was talking to one of my agents on my team, his name is Elliot, and his grandfather owned banks here in San Antonio a long time ago. But he was saying he was in Colorado, and that he was working a job, and he was driving one of the guys, and he heard his last name, and he was like, what's your last name? He told him his last name, and he was like, no relation to, and he gave his grandfather's name, and he was like, that's my grandfather. And the dude just bursted out like, I'm here today, I'm flying private today, doing the things I did because your grandfather took a chance on me and let me alone for a business loan, and he took my business off. And it's that kind of impact that I'm trying to accomplish in my time. So that's what I end up becoming. That becomes my purpose, and what I'm working for today is to have it be so big that people will come back to whoever that is, my mom, my wife, my children, and say, hey, your dad did this for me. And then the money is just a byproduct of doing something well. It's how we keep score. It's how we know who's doing better. But it's not the end all be all. And so I tell people all the time, like, what you're chasing is probably not as big as you think it is, and it's far more obtainable than you really think it is. And then from there, you just make the rest happen.
Man, dropping dimes, I love it, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I have an acronym, and that is POOR, passing over opportunities repeatedly. That's what keeps us poor.
I like that.
Passing over opportunities repeatedly. But Devin, I appreciate you coming on the podcast today, dropping all this wisdom for everybody. Hopefully y'all got some great value. And if you see the alignment, if you see the same success is all because it's not about the money, it's about the impact. If you chase money, money will run. It's like a woman, right?
Go away.
The more that you want that woman, the more she's like, ugh.
Yep.
But the more you're just doing what you're supposed to do, that woman like, ooh, what is he doing? And so I love it. I appreciate you, man.
Of course.
It's always good to link up with you.
Anytime.
And guys, if you're looking to get plug in to create impact. If you want to learn how to create impact, if you're learning how to level up your life, plug in with Impact Society. We'd love to help you out.